an Abzan Delve deck, actually. And this is a deck that's actually starting to pick up a little bit of popularity. There are copies of Gurmag Angler here. Gather the Pack is going to tie the room together a little bit. You also find a lot of copies of Tasigur, 3 of each Delve cards. Then Protector to abuse the graveyard, Satyr Wayfinder to fill the graveyard, and of course, Siege Rhino. As here's a mountain, there's a Foundry Denizen, and we are underway here in round number 6.
Yeah, talking about Abzan Delve. Yeah, right, you mentioned Tasigurs and Anglers. It's an interesting take on Abzan here. Normally you don't see Gurmag Angler making it into this deck.
Windswept Teeth has been sacrificed by Sneed. He'll get a Plains, and we'll see what his second turn brings. He knows right away that he's under the gun. May not know that he's playing against goblins exactly.
Justin checking out the land. That's the Maze's End promo, or from Dragon's Maze. If your store completed the maze during the pre-release, everybody got that Plains.
Wow, I had no idea.
It's because I got one. I finished the maze.
Here's a Satyr Wayfinder. Going to turn over a couple of cards here. 2 lands to choose from. Looks like Sansep Citadel is the weapon of choice here for Sneed. Now we're going to head back Cohen's way.
One of the hard parts about cards like Foundry Street Denizen is when they have to stare across that Satyr Wayfinder.
Yeah, not great.
It's a letdown.
Satyr Wayfinder's already drawn a card. It's already started to fill up the graveyard, and now you might have to trade. I don't know if I want to do that. Now, you're pretty familiar with Justin. I know you guys have worked together on some decks. So tell us about him, because what most people know is that he got second place in a Pro Tour with Amulet Bloom, and not a lot outside of that.
Well, it was his first Pro Tour. Justin, he's Sam Black's roommate, so both of them actually tested a lot together. Is still pretty new to the scene. That plays a lot of Magic online. Doesn't make it out to too many real-life events. He said, talking about this one, he considered skipping the event, but it was an hour from his house. Got a deck list from a friend.
Way to really make the drive, Justin. The full hour.
Yeah.
Just couldn't peel himself out of bed.
He's the kind of player who does not, instead of grinding events, finds a couple of events that he really, and then prepares very hard for them.
Yeah, one thing I do know about Justin, all kidding aside, he's super analytical.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've really enjoyed. He's written some articles for various websites, and he is one of the most analytical players I've ever seen. You know, his brain works in a much different way than mine would ever work. So, especially when it came to Amulet Bloom and all the iterations with that deck, I knew he was very well versed in that. Stoke the Flames to draw here for Cohen.
Yeah, certainly is not a play-by-feel style player at all. It's play by coming up with lines and working through lines.
It seems like play by the numbers a lot of the time.
Yep.
There's Goblin Rabblemaster.
Well, eventually we have to trade these goblins away for Satyr Wayfinders.
Yeah, I mean, at least in this situation, he's able to push through some amount of damage. He's going to end up losing Foundry Denizen. I can't imagine that's going to make it through combat.
Lots of different characters. We had a Rabblemaster, I guess, makes Cedric tokens. So we have that for you.
We got Eric Smith and myself out there giving the beatdowns right now.
So Eric Smith's a dragon fodder token, and you hang out with Rabblemaster?
I guess so. You know, I'm not too picky. Right. Sneed will draw. See if his card like Siege Rhino this turn.
If I were a Goblin, we could only use them with Empty the Warrens.
That's because you love combo.
That'd be acceptable, but no other card would be allowed to make them.
Here's the Siege Rhino. Very picky. I guess you get to make a lot of yourself if you get to empty the Warrens.
Yeah. We have like 26 of them sitting in the box for when it happened.
Cohen will draw. Picked up a copy of Rogue's Passage.
It's helpful. This game has really turned out in a way that is not going in Justin's favor at all. Satyr Wayfinder was great against these early goblins, and turn 4 Siege Rhino. It's going to be hard for him to get by.
Another Rabblemaster in hand here for Cohen. Stoke the Flames, Dragon Fodder.
There's not much that helps him get by this card. He has 2 Subterranean Scouts that can push through a Rabblemaster once. He has only 1 copy of Goblin Heel Cutter in the main. Post-board, he'd have 3 more Heel Cutters and 3 Roasts. Siege Rhino would not be as big of a problem, but game 1, this guy is bad news.
Well, here come the Goblin tokens. Rabblemaster going to hang back on defense, and in combination with Stoke the Flames, we could see Siege Rhino leave the battlefield, but Sneed has no interest in blocking. So we'll see what the follow-up is here for Cohen.
Yeah, remember, post-combat Rabblemaster is very scary because it forces all the Rabblemasters to start suiciding. which Justin has a Stoke, so he wouldn't have to do that.
Looks like he's going to follow up here with Dragon Fodder. And that leaves him the ability to still cast Stoke the Flames. So we're going to head back Sneed's way. Looks like he may have picked up another copy of Siege Rhino.
Whoa, I mean, running Siege Rhinos, yeah, it looks like has happened. That's so hard for mono red.
Yep. Always has been, always will be.
I mean, and the problem is that Justin can't really go for the block and Stoke the Flames line you were talking about. Say he blocks and tries to Stoke the Rhino. Things like Obzon Charm could happen to save it. It's really risky to do it into open mana. That said, there is play here for Justin to get by even multiple Siege Rhinos. All these tokens plus 2 Rabble Masters and a Stoke could set up a one-shot kill. It's like 2 Stokes.
Let's see if Sneed just wants to go. He's attacking. Hello.
Well, I think he has to. I mean, Rogue's Passage is online here. Next turn, Justin could Rogue's Passage the Rabble Master and attack for the team. That's
a lot of damage. Okay.
Not to mention he has a follow-up Rhino. Because of 2 Stokes in Justin's hand, it seems pretty reasonable that Justin's going to end step, point a Stoke at something.
Well, Cohen chump blocked, even though some trample damage has occurred with 1 Goblin.
Yeah, that certainly feels like a Stoke the Flames.
Yep. So let's see what happens next, because now Sneed might want to change his line of play.
Yeah, he may want to play around that.
Where before, I think he was very sure he wanted to cast Siege Rhino, and he's still going to.
If he had another creature where he could leave up Dromoka's Commander Obzon Charm, I think he would. The problem is that these only other creature is Siege Rhino.
Yeah. We'll see if Cohen wants to pivot with his Stoke the Flames or not, or if he wants to finish off the Siege Rhino. Yeah, okay, he's going to finish off the Rhino. Now he'll untap. It's time to take a draw. Mountain is a big one. And that's a land for the Rogue's Passage. Goblin, beatdowns, trigger, unblockable. So 7 for sure is coming through.
Yeah, to do that into untapped mana. No untapped mana is so powerful.
So it's going to be a total of 11 damage.
Yeah, 1's blocked, 11 goes through, Sneed will beat at 8. Justin setting up for the kill next turn. Scary spot for Sneed. He's resolved 2 Siege Rhinos, but shouldn't feel safe at all here.
2 Siege Rhinos, 2 Satyr Wayfinders against the Goblins deck.
Yeah.
And the Wayfinders both found lands and both traded with relevant stuff. So perhaps this Goblins deck is a little more robust than people think.
Well, what I think Sneed needs to do, okay, backing up here, I would have liked to have seen Sneed just perhaps try to fight down the Rabble Master or something. I guess that's still available to him as he leaves back Rhino to block.
Maybe you'd rather see him do it tapped out, though? While Justin's tapped out?
I guess there's not too much of a difference. No, this is fine.
Because I would be surprised if Justin makes the same play that he did last turn.
Yeah, I can't imagine he'll make that into open mana. But he doesn't have to get too much damage across. He's got a Stoke in hand. Sneed's at 8. He has 3 insured damage here.
It looks like we have a Blister Pod request here from Cameron Sumner, so we'll talk about that card at the end of the round. Here's a Goblin Rabble Master right now here for Justin Cohen. So that's going to bring a Goblin along with it here in just a second. But it looks like Sneed may have a response with Dromoka's Command.
Command, the Rhino is going to fight the freshly cast Rabble Master. Doesn't want to let Justin get that extra Goblin.
Here's Stoke the Flames.
And now that Dromoka's Command is out of Evan's hand, Justin can safely cast Stoke. And for the record, this is lethal at the moment.
Yeah, because the Goblin Rabble Master is going to die. Now this
Yeah.
Goblin Red Master brings a
Makes a
token with it.
token.
He can only block 1, 4 damage gets through, and that'll be Exactly. So Justin Cohen does win game number 1 here over Evan Sneed, Mono Red Goblins.
And you mentioned it, through a pair of Satyr Wayfinders and a pair of Siege Rhinos. That's not a game that Sneed will expect to lose.
Yeah, currently up a game here over Abzan Delve. So now we take a look at the sideboard, and we will start with Evan Sneed and his 2 copies of Gaia's Revenge, 3 Hangerback Walker, 3 Self-Inflicted Wound, an Utter End of Dromoka's Command, 3 Irrational Clerics, and 2 Tragic Arrogance. Some good cards here.
He has shown up with some good cards this matchup. Hangerback Walker and Erishan Cleric are both excellent against Goblins. And with 3 of each, I'm assuming he'll bring them all in.
Do you like Tragic Arrogance here at all?
Well, Justin sure went wide that game. So it's interesting to think about insofar as what killed Evan is that he wasn't able to just sweep Justin's board once. So maybe he does want access to a Tragic Arrogance or 2. I'm not entirely sure. It is slow.
One thing that's notable, no Drought and Sorrow action here in the sideboard here for Evan Sneed. So Justin's got to be pretty happy about that. You know, he doesn't know that because he doesn't have access to the deck list, but I'm sure if we told him, he'd be pretty thrilled about that. So we take a look now at Justin's sideboard.
Yeah, Justin has, we mentioned before, Goblin Heel Cutter and Roast, 3 of each in the sideboard. Those all figure to be very good. His other cards, I don't see doing too much work. Scouring Sands, Smash to Smithereens, Outpost Siege, Magma Spray. I think it's just the Heel Cutters and Roasts. He wants to make sure he gets past cards like Siege Rhino.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 2 will be underway here in just a moment, but we'll talk about our Season 2 Invitational Champion. That's Ali Antrazi. You see his son Aiden on the Angel token. Ali winning our Season 2 Invitational, beating good friend Chris Van Meter in the finals. That's why he's got this token, and you can get it too. Not a lot of time left, however. Available for all Open Series players, all 5K Premier IQ players, and in all orders from StarCityGames.com. We're making the switch over to our Season 3 Invitational Champion, Alex Bastecki, on October 2nd. So if you'd like to get that Ali Antrazi token, you only have a little time left to do so, but those are the ways to do it. And we will see Ali at our Players' Championship at the end of the year. 3 formats for that tournament, and we know Ali loves to brew. So
yeah.
I expect some real nice decks from him.
This certainly will be exciting. We haven't, we saw him win the Invitational with Tron.
Yep.
But
Green Red Tron taking out Amulet Bloom in the finals. I was actually a little surprised by that result.
I think we both were, but it was a clean sweep in favor of Ali.
Yeah. The Amulet Bloom deck, I definitely think the match was close. I think Ali's game plan, the Crucible Ghost Quarter plan, even though it didn't come into play very much during that match, was certainly helpful. And I remember that really long, drawn-out game that they had that we covered where Ghost Quarter was playing a role in things, and that I think ended up making it so Chris had very few outs actually left in his deck to win the game. It was a heck of a match.
Chris Van Meter, one of the players that currently not qualified, could snag a qualification.
Yep. Currently out there in Seattle. So we'll see what events we see him at this year. We do see some West Coast players travel to the Open Series events, Jerry Thompson, Joe Lissette. And for CVM, he's not that far out of the race, so it's certainly within the realm of possibility that we do see him qualify again for the Players' Championship, just like he did last year.
So 1-0 for Goblins here. And I wonder as Justin moves toward things like Goblin Heel Cutter and Roast, whether or not he has to move away from Foundry Street Denizen. The Abzan Delve deck already is showing Satyr Wayfinders, and once you throw Arish and Clerics in at the same time, the lifespan on that guy is so short.
Yeah, if I'm in Justin's spot here, even though I am a Goblin deck, I do want to get Foundry Denizen out of my deck as fast as possible. It's just not where I would want to be at all in this matchup. Satyr Wayfinder, he doesn't know about Arash and Clerics, but you have to imagine that there's some sort of hate coming in from the Abzan deck, be it Cleric or Drown in Sorrow.
Exactly.
And I just don't really want Denizen in that situation. And he's got some good tools to board in.
Roast and Heel Cutters are great.
Yeah. I would be happy with both of those options. Both players are going to take a look at their opening 7. Evan Sneed will be on the play here with his Abzan Delve deck. He's going to keep. Cohen will keep. We're underway here. Temple of Malady is where Sneed will start. Top card. We'll see where it's going. It looks like it's going to the bottom.
And where Evan got hurt that last game was his creatures were superb, but he just never had a sweeper. Remember, he actually has 3 main deck copies of Languish. This is a matchup where I like Evan, especially after sideboard.
See if Cohen has a card like Dragon Fodder here. He's going to go with Subterranean Scout attack for 2.
It makes him unblockable.
Evan wants to make sure he knows what the Goblin Scout does. And there's the battlefield. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Works great with Goblin Rattlemaster and Goblin Piledriver. Urborg here for Sneed. And there is a copy of Russian Cleric in hand. Also a copy of Abzan Charm. Looks like he's going to go with the Cleric, gain 3 life, go up to 21.
Yeah, he can't actually just keep taking hits off these goblins. Cleric makes sense. Over on Justin's side, he has a copy of Obelisk of Erd in his hand. And it looks like Hordling Outburst. There could be some big plays here.
Obelisk, a card that's great against players that are playing Drown in Sorrow or Cleric to defend themselves. Not great against Languish, however.
No, still sweeps them. And I'll be curious to see whether or not he's willing to commit. I think he's saving the Hordling Outburst so he can play around Drown in Sorrow. I think he wants to play land 4, Hordling Outburst, Obelisk, all in the same turn.
Here's an attack for 2. Pass the turn back.
Airshun Cleric doing work. It's already saved Evan 2 points of damage.
Yep. Languish was the
Languish.
draw.
Now, the question here is how light will Justin get off? Be able to get out from under this? You know, if Evan sweeps the board here, it's actually bad for Justin that Evan missed the land drop, because this is going to incentivize Justin to jam Obelisk of Erd right now, which could be real. It could be dangerous.
Yeah, we could have Outburst plus Obelisk this turn.
Right, and I think that's what's going to happen. And if Evan draws the land for the Languish, it's gonna wreck Justin's board. The danger, see, if Evan had hit land 4 last turn, Evan probably would have cashed in the Languish already. This is a great board for it, and Justin would have the ability to rebuild with Obelisk, but it's just not going to be the case.
Well, it looks like Justin isn't going to go all in. He's going to still play it a little bit.
This is had good heads up play on his side to just play Obelisk and not Hordling Outburst into it.
Yeah, definitely smart. Here comes the Scout. It'll be a 4-3. Now, what's interesting is how Sneed actually wants to go about using the Abzan Charm in hand.
Yeah, he could block Pump. He could chump block.
Chump block and draw, which is what he's
So
going to do.
that shows he really just wants to hit the land for Languish, like the chump block and draw line. But will the land be untapped if he hits it at all?
The answer is no.
No, it's only Sandstep Citadel. So now it's going to take a lot of damage. Gather the Pack, Den Protector. Those are the other 2 cards he got.
Den Protector face down as a morph.
A lot of damage coming Evan's way.
Heel Cutter is a great draw. Is that lethal, maybe?
So Heel Cutter is... wow. So that's... yeah, they'll put them all up to 2. So that's going to be 9 damage plus 8. That is 17.
That's exactly 17, especially with the Denizen trigger, too.
Yeah. Now do it 17 damage coming in, no blocks. That should be lethal.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's going to do it. Justin Cohen going to win this match here over Evan Sneed. 2-0. Mono Red Goblins taking care of Abzan Delve. The 4th land does not enter the battlefield untapped there for Sneed. Never able to cast Languish in the matchup. And Justin Cohen, the current Rookie of the Year, moves on to 5-1.
And even with the Languish, Evan would have been hard-pressed to win that. Heel Cutter dashing when an Obelisk of Erd is already on the table is difficult. He had an Abzan Charm to cover it, but by no means would Languish have won him the game at that point.
Congratulations to Justin Cohen. Continuing his winning ways, moving on to 5-1, Mono Red Goblins. An interesting choice for the weekend, but doing well with it so far.